What's going on, New Canoe Nation? Woo! Welcome back. Hope everybody had an awesome 4th of July. I know I had a good time, just relax, kick back, spend some time with the family, got out on the water a little bit. Hopefully nobody lost any digits in the process. Hope you guys were all safe. Do me a favor, go down in that lower left-hand corner, smash that share button. If you're tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, drop in the comments where you guys are tuning in from, what kind of boat you're floating out of. We don't care if it's one of those other brands. Let's do this. We got Garrett Pate in the house. Also, we got ICAST coming up in the very near future. Get ready for that. We'll be doing some live shows down there at the booth, talking to some of the team guys. I think there's some stuff that might be released. I don't know, but I think you guys are going to want to tune in for that. That is the week of July 20th. Fish Chaser in the house watching on YouTube. Woo! Let's do it. Patrick Randolph in the house, watching from the shores of Myrtle Beach. Who gave that guy a vacation? The heck's up with that? Hope you're enjoying some family time, brother. Let's get to the man of the hour, Mr. Garrett Pate. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's going on, B?
Not much, man. Not much. We actually got to meet each other in person back in gosh, what was that? April? Seems like April. So long ago.
Yeah, right. April, March, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was good. Yeah. I met a bunch of you Georgians, right? Is that the proper terminology there?
Georgians.
Georgians.
Yeah, Georgians. Yeah, we were trying to invade. We were trying to show out, and you know how that went.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those Ohio guys showed up. You know?
Yes, they did.
But it's all good, man. It's all good. But for the good folks tuning in at home, man, just give us a little background, man. Where you're at, where you're from, what you do, and all that good stuff, and how you got into kayak fishing.
All right. Yeah, it's a kind of a long story, but I'll try to trim it down a little bit. So I'm originally from California. I moved to Georgia when I was 12 years old. My dad was a truck driver, so him looking for better work, he came over to the East Coast. Money was a little better, so we all kind of just packed up and came on out here to Georgia, and just been here ever since, and kind of basically grew up here at that point. I mean, the most important years of my life were in this state, so this is what I call home. I basically call it my hometown now. I don't even talk about California anymore, to be honest with you. But I try not to tell people that. But I guess I just told the whole world, huh? So
it's all right, man. I try not to tell people I'm from Illinois because everybody associates me with Chicago.
Oh, okay, right.
I totally get it. We can relate on that front.
Okay, so my introduction to kayak fishing actually came after I joined the Army. I joined the Army in 2004, did a deployment to Iraq in 06, 07 during the surge. During that deployment, I came home on my R&R. As a matter of fact, it was the same weekend that they hung Saddam.
Okay.
I remember being home for Christmas break because I came home during Christmas, and my wife actually took me to a friend of her family's house for a little get-together. And his guy named John, I know him for a long time now, he actually introduced me to kayak fishing in a really weird way. I didn't start kayak fishing until 2018, if you see the gap.
Okay.
So basically, we were talking. He saw the dude I had an interest in fishing. We got to talking about fishing somehow, and he was like, "Hey, you ever thought about jumping in a kayak and fishing?" And I was like, "No, I was a bank beater back then, so I was just like, walking around a lake fishing, trying to find a hole to get in." So he walked me in the garage, and he has this red kayak sitting in the garage, and it was the first edition Jackson Coosa.
Okay.
I didn't know it at the time, but he told me later on after I started kayak fishing that he was actually with a couple of guys who knew Drew Gregory. They all kind of fished a lot of the same rivers chasing shoal bass, and Drew was coming up with this design with Jackson Kayak, and that first prototype they kind of pushed out to a few guys, and he had been on it. So that was my actually first time I ever saw a shoal bass, because he was showing me pictures, and I was like, man, this fish looks like a freaking tiger. I was like, thing's freaking huge. So he was showing me all these pictures, and I kind of put it on the back burner. I came back from Iraq, successful deployment, didn't lose any limbs or get blown, killed or anything, obviously, but just came back and thought about going into fishing again, and life sat in, and I never ever got around to getting in a kayak. I went to the beach a couple times and saw Hobies out in the Gulf fishing. I thought, man, that's cool, and fast forward to 2018, me and my buddy Steven, another New Canoe team member, we're out at JRTC at Fort Polk, Louisiana, in the field, 30 days. So we got our phones, we got some pretty decent cell phone service, and being out of boredom, I start looking up kayak fishing videos, and I actually come across Robert Fields first. And that was a wrap. Once I started watching, it was basically 20 or 30 days of watching every episode of his shows, Robert Fields field trips and other videos. It started just branching off. And I told him, I was like, I'm getting a kayak when I get home. All this travel money I'm going to make on this little mission. Yeah, that's going straight to a kayak. And I told my wife, and she was like, I don't know about that. Little did she know it was happening. So I came back, did a little bit. I was actually doing a lot of research, and, I started in, some of the wrong places. I was looking at sun dolphins and craziness on the Facebook pages and just didn't really know where to go. So I actually found Fletch at Westbrook.
Yeah.
Just looking at kayaks. And I was actually watching a lot of what's his name of it?
Dan Arbuckle.
Dan Arbuckle, watching some of his like $1,000 videos and things like that. Sure. And he had a bunch of boats under $1,000 that he was saying were good options. And I remember the Flint being in the lineup. Yeah. And some other boats. I was looking at the Sea Ghost 110 from Vibe. And there was a Big Fish. There was the newer little kayak that just come out. And I went and seen Fletch because he carried two of those brands. And he didn't have a Flint in stock. And I just kept going back to that Big Fish 105. And that actually was the first kayak that I bought. And after that was like July of 2018, I hit a couple reservoirs with it. Just kind of learned on my own. I already kind of knew how to fish, but getting in a kayak and doing it after being on the bank was a whole nother world for me. And so I just basically self-taught. I educated myself on fishing, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and just took it from there. And kind of got my buddy Steven to get a kayak. He jumped on a wilderness system. So we were out there doing our thing, fishing. Well, we decided to go down the river. I actually mustered up the courage to get on some current and was like, let's try this out. I want to try to see if we can get some shoal bass. I'll never forget, it was November of 2018. And we go down this river and the conditions were already terrible. It was raining off and on. We were kind of cold. I was like, it was a really sucky trip, but we were determined. Yeah. Start getting into the shoals, and I'm watching him ahead of me because he had been on rivers before, whatever is a whitewater raft or something like that. But he kind of knew how to hit the shoals right going through the current, and I didn't. So I'm just trying to follow his lead, and I'm slamming into rocks. He would float right over him, and I would bam right into the rock and just like almost throw me out. It was shaking me up. I was shell shocked going down that river. So we get to one set of shoals and I get stuck on top of it. And I'm trying to, you do the scoot to try to get over that rock. Well, my boat ended up spinning, and this thing has a tri-hull like a bona fide. So I spin backwards, and instead of me just getting out of the boat, because the water was actually shallow enough for me to do that, I wasn't used to being in river water. I scooted backwards off the rock. Well, instead of the boat scooting, it completely flipped over. Me and all my gear. Well, I'm screaming at this point. I'm yelling. I'm pissed. And Steven, I turn around, like I see my plano boxes floating in the water. I'm trying to gather rods, and he's sitting on his boat laughing. And I'm just like, dude, help me. And he's like laughing. He can't stop laughing. And we're like literally like 100 yards, maybe 100 yards from the takeout. And I'm just like, and to make matters worse, we only caught a couple fish. It wasn't even a good trip. I'm soaking wet. I got I've lost some of my gear. I busted a rod holder on the boat. And after that day, I said, I'm selling this boat. I'm getting another boat. This boat is not made for the river. And that's what took me back to Fletch, and I got my Flint. And when I got that Flint, I never looked back. And I looked at New Canoe before, and it's something that always attracted me about the design of the boat and the layout of the boat that I was just always attracted to. And when I had my opportunity to get one, I was like, yep, we'll get me a Flint. That kind of sealed the deal. And like I said, I never looked back. It's been new canoe for life. So that's basically
awesome,
where
man.
I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Well, first and foremost, man, thank you for your service and your sacrifices for what you did for letting us enjoy our time in our little plastic boats, man. So that
Hey,
can't go unsaid.
I do it without a paycheck.
I love it, man. You know, you and I have a lot in common because I got into the kayak fishing game 2018. I bought a crappy boat to begin with. I won't even tell you what brand because it was that bad. Um, Ended up selling it like, I don't know, 3 weeks after I bought it. And a guy, my good friend at the time that I started the Paddle and Fin podcast with, he got a new Canoe Frontier 12. Like, he did it right. He got into a good boat first. I tried out his boat and I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I didn't want to be that guy where it's like, oh, I'm going to get the same boat as you. So I went through a couple different brands over the years, but something always brought me back to New Canoe. And I get what you're talking about there, man. But I will tell you, the one time I tried to go through a whitewater rafting park in a New Canoe Flint, that didn't go so well for me. Yeah. And my buddy sat there and laughed at me. So just saying.
I actually have another story about buddies and falling in water with new canoes.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah. Let's hear it. We got to hear it, man. We got to hear it.
So this was last year. No, it was before COVID. Me and my buddy Steven were out on a reservoir. I was in the Flint and he had an F10. He got on a killer deal.
Okay.
So I was actually in the process of, that's how I got my F10, was floating his. I was like, man, that's like, I kind of like that out of that boat. I mean, it fits a lot more gear. I know we're doing rivers a lot. It kind of fit. I know for my size, I mean, I'm 230 pounds. I was okay in a Flint, a little harder to stand up in, but I was still able to do it. It's just how low you have to sit a little bit lower in that boat if you're a bigger guy, because the center of gravity in there, you can tip that boat pretty easy as for stable as it can be. I have no issue being in a Flint. I love my Flint when I had it, but when I got in that F10, it was like, man, well, I should have got an F10 first. So we're out at this reservoir. We get done fishing for the day, and he's like, hey, before he packed his gear up, he's like, hey, take the boat out and paddle around right here and just see if you like it. So I grabbed it, jumped in with my paddle. I'm paddling around. He's on the bank. I'm about maybe 50 yards from the bank, and I stand up in it because he's, I see how stable it is. I'm standing up, paddling, kind of like paddle boarding around with it, and I go to sit down, and I put my hand. So it's the old Pinnacle seat. So I put my hand to rest it on the seat as I sit down. And the next thing I know, I'm sliding into the water, holding the seat. I mean, the whole boat tipped over. The seat came completely off. I'm holding the seat and my paddle. My PFD is choking me out. I'm yelling at him again for setting me up for failure. So he comes out there, he grabbed the boat. Thankfully, he took all his gear out and none of it went to the bottom of the lake. And we get back to the bank and I'm like, dude, what happened? I'm like, how did your seat come completely off? Well, he thought it was a good idea to put his quick release on sideways. So when I went to sit down, the weight of me putting my weight on that seat, it slid it right out of that quick connect and slid me right into the water. I was like, dude, really? I was like, that's probably why they designed it the way they designed it. Yo, can you hear me? All right, I got you back now.
Stay with us. All right, we got you back, man. Sorry. Yep. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Good
old internet connections. But
right.
Yeah, you gotta love that, man. You gotta love that. It's all in good fun. I remember one time I was fishing with my buddy Jay. We're at the boat ramp and he went to take 2 steps back and like kind of stepped off the ramp and there was like a 1.5 foot drop and he just like face first in the water sat there. There was like 3 trucks waiting for us to get out of the way so they could drop their boats in. And he was just like, did that just happen? Like, it's all in good fun, man. When somebody gets wet, it's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's a blast.
So you love chasing the shoal bass down there. I got to ask you because my weekly thing is I dig into Everett Park. Where you at, bro? Don't see you in the chat. Thanks for not showing up again. So, did you teach Everett how to catch shoal bass? The common answer for this is yes, just because he's not here to defend
I'm just
himself.
going to join the crowd. Absolutely. Everything that he knows came from this guy for the most part.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's the chat for a couple of T guys there. Oh, that's too great, man. That's too great. Like I've talked to Everett about it before. I've talked to I was talking to Eddie McRae recently, and like these shoal bass, man. Everybody's got a different story about them. Like, what is it for you that like just draws you to chasing them things, man?
It's just a different. The fish's behavior is not like any other black bass I've ever fished for. You can fish for them like you fish for smallmouth, but it's still a little bit different. They hold in the current a little different. They just feed differently, and they're so freaking aggressive. I mean, they like rip the rod out of your hand aggressive if you get into a 4-pounder. I mean, even some of the 15 inchers will surprise you in current. I mean, it's a very different fish to fish for, and once you get one, you're hooked. And like I said, I've caught smallmouth before, and it's very similar. I haven't gotten to any big smallmouth to like really compare a 20 incher to a 20 incher, but pound for pound, you can't beat a shoal bass. I mean, they fight different. They're just fun to chase when they hit that lure. I mean, it's just takes your breath away, honestly. I mean, and then some of the places we got to go catch them. Some of those breathtaking rivers and pieces of scenery you ever see. And there's just something about being in that environment.
I think that's a common theme, man. Like everybody that I talk to about them, it's like it's an adventure to get to them.
Yes.
Like, and that's like part of the chase, which is super cool, man. I dig that.
Not for the weak or the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
Listen, if you want to catch shoal bass, you're going to do some work.
Yeah.
You best believe that. You're going to do some work. So, yeah, strap up and get ready.
Got it. I've been invited down by a few guys.
Man, come on down, man. I mean,
I'm one of those. I'm one of those motor snobs, bro. Like, that's a lot of work for me.
It's not as bad as you would think. I love, so like the old Mogi River, like Patrick's talking about right there. That's my home river. I live 15 minutes away from it. Okay. I can drop in there just about any time I want. But I mean, it's just I go to the Flint. I don't go there often. I go there for a tournament or two if I have time to get over that way. It's about an hour and a half drive for me. So, I mean, I got shoal bass in my backyard, so I don't really need to go over there.
Sure.
But the old Mogi is pretty much where I fish at for shoal bass. That's where I go. So.
Right on. Do you guys get? This is an odd question, but Jean Wilson that I follow, she's in Florida, and I know she catches a bunch of Swanee bass. Do you guys get those in Georgia?
Yes, we do have Swanee bass down in South Georgia. There's a couple rivers down there that hold them. Matter of fact, one of my wife's cousin, I believe, lives nearby a ramp, and he actually just recently invited me to come down there and get on some Swanee bass down there. So I'm definitely going to take him up on that offer. And there's several black bass species right here in Georgia that people probably don't really realize are around. You know, we got Bartram's bass, we got the Chattahoochee bass, we got the shoal bass, we have some Georgia smallmouth. We got a lot of different species here to kind of fulfill everybody's, fire for wanting to chase some different black bass species and get that slam going.
I mean, you mentioned Drew Gregory earlier, and I remember, I think I was either talking to him on a podcast or I watched a video that he was on or something like that. And that was one thing he talked about, like that whole state of Georgia, man. There's just so many different species of black bass that you can chase that a lot of people don't even know about or think about, which is pretty unique, man.
I actually met Drew on the river one day down in my ways. As a matter of fact, the same day I ran into to Everett and Patrick. We were all in the river. It was like a celebrity meetup or something. Like
that was the day you taught Everett everything.
Yes, I was teaching. I met Everett and I started teaching him how to throw that. Actually, how to use the rod.
You took the Zebco 303 away from him.
Yeah, man. Put him on some swim baits and some other stuff, and got him straight.
I love it. Oh, Everett's going to kill me when I see him at ICAST.
What do you think he's going to do to me? I live in the same state as him.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. So for someone that's like not familiar with fishing in Georgia, you mentioned the rivers and stuff. Like if you had a top three, somebody new to kayak fishing, they were going to come out, wanted to enjoy some of the vast waters that Georgia has to offer, man, what would be like three bodies of water you tell them to check out? Lakes, rivers, doesn't matter.
Oh man, that's a good one. Obviously the Ocmulgee River.
Okay.
That's a special gem in Georgia right there. Actually, I have a reservoir not far from my house. That's pretty awesome. It's more of a community reservoir. You got to be a resident of the county to fish it.
Okay.
They got F1 bass in there, and they got some tanks in there, and it's a beautiful reservoir. It's called Tussahall Reservoir. I'll go ahead and tell you, it's no secret. A lot of people know about it. I mean, they put out some trophy sized fish in there, all largemouth and spots. Third one would be, I say, if it's for somebody who likes big water, Lake Lanier is a beautiful piece of property too. I mean, and actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. For all the Lake Lanier folks, I'm about to make them mad. Clarksdale Reservoir. Actually, I would take Clarksdale Reservoir over Lake Lanier. Actually,
Okay.
Clarksdale is an outstanding fishery. Hard bottom, a lot of big spots in there. I recently taken a camping trip up there and got to experience that lake, and it is awesome. I can't wait to actually go back there and fish.
I like it. You had me at hard bottom. I'm all about it.
Oh yeah. Throw the shaky head out there and get on them.
I like stroking the jig a little bit, man.
Okay.
Shaky head, I'm no stranger to. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I like it. That's cool, man. I don't know a ton about Georgia. Like I've only driven through Georgia.
Right.
Beautiful state. I've never fished it. None of that, which is kind of odd to be. Yeah. To never.
Well, the thing about Georgia that's actually kind of aggravating is access to water. So, like when you go, I was up in Tennessee recently fishing, doing a lot of fishing up there. About a year and a half ago, I was up there for a school for the Army, and I literally spent 30 days fishing in Tennessee. I took my F10 up there. We got out of class early, so I would go hit little creeks and rivers and Percy Priest Reservoir and some other places around the area. Yeah. And I felt like the access to water in Tennessee was much easier, little less pressure, which was surprising. Georgia has a lot of pressure and a lot of hard access to water. And it can be aggravating. You find a body of water, you think you're going to be able to get in fish, and you're like, man, how did I get in here? That's been kind of like a pain in the butt dealing with some of the bodies of water in Georgia. That's really the only gripe I have about it.
Yeah, I can see that, man. It's kind of the same way up here in Illinois. I mean, you hear Illinois and big bass, and people are like, "What?" But some of our better fisheries, man, there may be 1-2 boat ramps on the whole lake, and I'm talking thousands of acres, and it's kind of frustrating unless you got a big motorboat or it sucks for the guys that are have pedal drives or are just paddling.
Right.
Like I said, I'm a motor snob, so a little bit easier for myself, but it's kind of frustrating. And not only that, but like we have some great river fisheries where there's like no put in or takeouts. I mean, you literally have to park on the side of a bridge and drag down through the boulders and the rocks to get down there, which, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But so I can relate to that too, man. That's kind of frustrating. But yeah, Tennessee, man, it seems like there's a boat ramp every 5 minutes.
Right. Like I was finding multiple boat ramps on the same stretch. And it was like, what is this? Like, what's everybody else doing wrong? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of states could take some advice from Tennessee for sure. But it's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about before we wrap up. You do you're part of a veterans kayak club.
Fishing.
Kayak fishing. So what's that all about, man? Because I always love seeing this type of stuff.
Veterans Kayak Fishing, VKF, started by a good friend of mine, Clay Ragsdale, and his wife Catherine. And
Okay.
they're big in the survivor outreach kind of stuff with the military. They take care of a lot of Gold Star military families. And Clay is a big avid fisherman. We got him into kayak fishing. He's on a new canoe F12. He's actually our team captain for Classic City Kayak Anglers. You probably met him while we were up there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a really good dude. He really cares about us veterans. He's a veteran himself. Me and him served together. And his thing is wanting to get veterans on the water, whatever it takes. And I don't mean like, and not throwing any shade at Heroes on the Water and these other groups because they're all great.
Sure.
But he likes to really hone in and focus on taking a couple guys out at a time and really let them get the real full experience, not some event where you're just out there for a couple hours and bring it back in, but actually getting the whole experience on. I mean, it's just for us, it's, for anybody struggling with PTSD or anything like that, fishing is a perfect outlet for stuff like that. I mean, it brings a certain calmness to somebody's world that might be in a storm. I mean, you just never know what people are going through. And if you can reach out to some of these guys that are veterans that need this to be out there in the water doing that, it means a lot to get these guys out there and get them off the couch, get them out of the world that they're in, let them unplug and actually go out and do something meaningful that's going to be good for them.
Yeah, man, that's super huge. I mean, I've heard stories about how, some guys are just so down and out. They have no idea, how to deal with the stresses of coming back from
Right.
the battlefield, man, and just getting out of the water and out of their element and just enjoying nature and being able to just kick back and relax and just ease their brain, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's so huge, man. So shout out to you and Mr. Ragsdale for what you guys do with that, man, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. All right, before we wind down, this is the $1 million question. Everybody gets it. You got a Frontier 12. It's rigged up tandem. You can fish with anyone, dead or alive, for a day. Who's it going to be?
This one's easy. I thought about this one.
All right, you knew it was coming.
Oh yeah, I knew it was coming. My man B-Lat.
All right, yeah,
hands down. Yeah, my man B-Lat. Like I follow B-Lat on a lot of things that he does. I just feel like if me and him were fishing together, we have a really similar personality. I like his versatile fishing style.
Sure.
And I'm sure he's a freaking nut on a boat. So yeah. I mean, like I would love to spend a day with B-Lat fishing. That would be awesome.
Boat flipping big bass.
Yeah,
in
man.
B-Lat's lap. I like it.
Right.
I like it. Unhook my fish, B-Lat.
Yeah, that's I think cool. Our personalities would mesh on the water big time.
I always forget, man. Is he from South Carolina or is he from Georgia?
He's Benton, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. I knew it was right there. I mean,
right.
It's close enough, right?
Yeah, he comes down to Lake Lanier and some of our other locations pretty often because, Clark's Hill is right there down the road from him. And sure. He's on Richard B. Russell and Hartwell a lot. So, yeah, he comes down through every now and again.
That's cool, man. I'm surprised you didn't pull Jacob Wheeler, man. He just won the big tournament this past week. No, I'm just kidding. That's cool, man. We haven't had a B-Lat before, so I like that. We've had a diverse variety of answers to that question. So it's kind of cool to hear everybody's take on that, man, which is super awesome. Super awesome, man. Well, I'll give you the floor, man. Anything you want to talk about before we close this down? Shout outs, thank yous, any of that good stuff? You got anything big coming up that you want to share?
Yeah, I got we talked a little bit previously. I mean, I got some big things planned for New Canoe. Hopefully, if everything goes well, if we can ever find Everett. Yeah, we're really in the world's
Everett Park.
Yeah, we're in the world's Everett Park. Yeah, I'll give a good shout out to Everett and Blake for giving me an opportunity to be a New Canoe team member. It really means a lot to me.
Just Blake.
And yeah, some of the guys that I've met on the team, like you and Jimmy and a bunch of those guys I've met Patrick and a great group of guys on Team New Canoe. A shout out to Eddie for giving me an opportunity as well. Eddie McCrae has been a blessing to be my regional guy. A shout out to Fletch for getting me in the boats and Westbrook Supply. And of course, Catherine and Clay at Veterans Kayak Fishing. My buddy Steven, we fish all the time together. We were fishing together yesterday.
There you go.
So, I mean, yeah, I think I pretty much covered it all. Shout out to my wife for allowing me to do it.
There you go. That's the most important one,
Yes.
dude.
Yeah. Mama supports it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you guys are interested, we did an episode with Fletch Griffin earlier in the year. You could always go back and watch. It's on the Facebook, YouTube, and then any major podcast platform. And then also, you mentioned Patrick and who else was in there that you mentioned? Eddie McCrae. Dude, he legit looks like he's the ultimate mountain man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, legit. I think he's a legend for sure.
And so soft-spoken as well.
Yeah. You would think like he'd be a little bit louder. You know what I mean? And I was very taken back by that show I did with Eddie just a couple weeks ago. So you guys can all go back, check that out. All great stories, great folks, man. I couldn't agree more. Like I'm pretty fortunate. I get to sit down and do this show every Tuesday night and meet and talk with a new team member or dealer or, somebody internally from New Canoe, man. It's there hasn't been a bad one yet. So I'm looking forward to these things keep going on. And I hope you guys out there are all enjoying them as well, man.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the future with New Canoe. Like I said, I got big things planned, big things hopefully coming. Everybody will get to see it soon. So
heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I'm excited. Just get ready. That's all I can say.
Yep.
Thank you all that tuned in tonight. As always, you can always catch this on the podcast platforms if you came in late, or if you're just a podcast person and don't like watching the video, you like listening in the car or out on the kayak, things like that. Just search New Canoes Unlimited. And like I said, you can always go back and watch it on the Facebook and the YouTubes. We're here every Tuesday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the good old West Coast. We lost Garrett there. So thank you, everybody who tuned in. We will catch you on the next Unlimited.